Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Gate 7 International by the fans, for the fans, your number one English source for all things Olympiacos FC and Greek soccer. Costa, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, Ari. Thank you so much for the invite, as always. Always an honor. How are you, my friend?
I'm better that we got our first win of the season, and I know you're pumped to get into that. And you also have some lovely exclusive news about Cissé. Pumped to get into all of that. But before we go any further, guys, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, like and subscribe. Just go hit that button real quick if you want to stay up to date with the latest news about Olympiacos, and also just to stay connected with the community that we have built of Olympiacos fans. Please do not forget to do so. And just a couple quick housekeeping items, guys. We are generating some new content over here at Gate 7 International. We've got a couple of video shorts that'll be coming out. One of them is the deep dive on Fadiga. So that will be a short video, again, just highlighting what we saw when we watched the tape of Fadiga. So hopefully you guys get excited for that. But we also have a fun video about Martins and his evolution at Olympiacos since he joined. Again, it's not a very long video, but we think it hits the point of just about everything that's there. So I hope you guys like it and look for that later this week. All of that stuff will be coming out. And of course, we want to thank our sponsor, Piraeus International. Piraeus International is your one-stop shop for all of your international transshipping needs. Whether you're shipping olive oil, packages, or cars, Piraeus is here to help. Please give our friends a call at 410-675-4696 or send them an email to sales@piraeusintl.com. See how they can help you today. Now, Costa, after a very difficult start to the new year, where we had 3 games, 0 wins, 2 draws and a loss to be specific. More recently, the loss to Panetolikos in the Cup.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of pressure on Olympiacos going into this game against Giannina, not just to win, but to also perform better, perform in a
Mhm.
way that is appropriate of Olympiacos, of this red and white strip here. So for me today, the team was at the very least better in both respects.
Mhm.
So I think with the win and with the performance today, it's going to stave some of that off. How do you feel about that?
To be honest with you, Ari, I feel like the Greek league is in a level right now that even if Olympiacos won 7-0 or 8-0 every week, it wouldn't really make much of a difference. It wouldn't really make a statement. Uh, it just shows. I mean, you have a team like Olympiacos who didn't make it to the Champions League, but they've been a mainstay in the Champions League and the Europa League since 2007 when they finally won an away game. But then you look at their opposition who either struggled to get to the Conference League or barely made it through to the Conference League. So I don't think the Greek league even shows anything anymore. At least Atalanta can't take much from that game because Pasianin are so beneath Olympiacos and Atalanta as well. Uh, as a Premier League reporter myself, what can I say? I can say that I've been watching a lot of Arsenal, and Arsenal haven't won their first game in 2022 yet. They lost to Man City in the Premier League. They were eliminated in the FA Cup by Nottingham Forest. You know that Marinakis factor is still very much into play. They were eliminated from the Carabao Cup after a draw and a loss to Liverpool, and they failed to beat Burnley today. And Burnley are bottom of the Premier League as it stands right now. So at least they don't have the Arsenal factor going on right now. But I have to say another thing. I before Man United's game with West Ham, I got to see Man United's squad, and I gotta say there's so much quality in that team. So many good players. So much more quality than the 2012-2013 team that won the Premier League for the last time. But Sir Alex Ferguson was at the helm back then. And if there's only one thing they have in common with Olympiacos, and it is only one thing they have in common, is that there is so much quality in that team, but for some reason it just doesn't click. And there's also a really good manager at the helm. It just doesn't click right now. So many good players that were hit by COVID. They were hit by a series of factors, such as a lot of good players that haven't moved on when they should have moved on. There's also the Semedo factor, which, in my opinion, poses as a shadow on the team, because Semedo was one of the most popular figures in the back in the dressing room.
Right.
I mean, this whole thing happened, and he's still there, and we still don't know what the hell is going on with him. It's just there's this team with a lot of quality players that for some reason is not clicking. A manager that is really good and has led Olympiacos to unbelievable and unforeseen success in Europe that for some reason cannot really convince that they can get a result like they did in 2019, 2020. Olympiacos are going to win the league, not because they're the best, but because they're the least worst. The Greek Cup, I mean, you mentioned the losses, but Olympiacos were playing their second, so it doesn't really count. But still, I'm not convinced Olympiacos can win the cup. Anything can happen. They can play PAOK and still get eliminated like last year. And Atalanta, well, they're in a whole different league.
Yeah, that's really true. It really is. Look, all things considered, it's I think we're beyond the point of expecting a miracle, right? There's only so much improvement that I think is possible for us to see with this team. I don't see overall the level of play we've had this season to get that much better. Do I hope we can tidy a few things up and maybe make things a little bit less crappy or here and there? Yeah, but I'm now at the point I'm beyond believing that we're going to make a miraculous turnaround and all of a sudden start playing the beautiful ball that we remembered. So, but bringing it back to this game, this specific game against Giannina today, when the match started and we were posting the lineups and the um, the individuals that were in the roster, 3-4-3 obviously reared its ugly head again, and many fans got really upset. First, looking at the partnership in the back, Avram with Usain Uba and Kostas Manolas, it wasn't necessarily the latter that upset people. It was the former. It was Avram. And, we'll go into this later. I don't think Avram had a bad game, but the thing that has been continuing to sit really poorly with fans is why, oh, why does he continue to play over Markovic? What is going on with Markovic that he is not rated? Adruzos was starting over Kenny Lala, which surprised some people. And something that I thought was a pleasant surprise, which vocal minorities seemed to dislike, was the starting of Valbuena alongside Youssef El Arabi and Yorgos Masouras. Now, that surprised me for a couple of reasons. One, because, look, I understand that he's old and we can't get a full game out of him. But at this stage in the league, based on the performances, we have plenty of data with how we've performed so far. We know what our spectrum is this season. We need to have our most creative people on the field. I don't care if Valbuena can barely stand. He is by far right now the most creative presence on this Olympiacos team. And to further support that, Costa, I have some stats for you. I know I've already said these to you already. I sent them to you guys, and we were going to make a post on social media about it, but then we decided to save it for the podcast.
The best part of the podcast.
The
best part of the podcast.
The best.
Lay them down.
So before this game today, guys, and again, I just want to say this to everyone. I know not everybody was against Valbuena starting. Most people seem to be happy and they believed he deserved it. At least most people in the chat that are currently here, I think, share the same opinion. But I just wanted to share these stats with you guys. Prior to this game against Giannina, Matthew Valbuena has not played for this club this season 1,000 minutes yet. So he really has not had a lot of time on that field. But in that 1,000 minutes, he has 7 assists, an expected assist metric of 4.46, which is the highest on the team, by the way. 47 total passes to the penalty area. 47. We don't have any other player that has close to that level of delivery. 6 smart passes. To remind you all, smart passes are passes. They're usually through balls, but they don't necessarily have to be, that give the team a significant advantage into an attack. So they create major threatening opportunities for us. He's had 6 of those and 8 key passes. Remember, a key pass is a pass that gets played to somebody directly for a shot on goal, but it does not go in. So he's had 8 of those. He, in terms of his per 90-minute performance, he has a higher level of productivity, offensive productivity, than anybody else on the team. Now, a lot of you may be upset that we have a 37-year-old that unfortunately is a pivotal point of this team, but this is just the way it is, unfortunately. And this is the circumstance. Valbuena is our most creative person going forward and going into the box, so he has to play. Costa, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Matteo Valbuena is a player that would have been remembered much more fondly if it wasn't for the Karim Benzema scandal. He got he pulled the short end of that stick. Uh, I'm not surprised, really. I mean, I just said it myself. He is a player with immense quality. Obviously, I'm not going to say the WC world, this WC word, but he is a luxury for Greek football. It really depends on what kind of opponent Olympiacos are facing. Because in my opinion, he's more of an impact player. Like for Atalanta, it'd be much more sane if he came on during the second half. You mentioned about the key passes. El Arabi and Tiquinho are those kind of strikers that are not really going to pick up the ball and do stuff with it like Kylian Mbappe does at Paris Saint-Germain, like Erling Haaland does at Borussia Dortmund. They need to be fed that ball. They need good wingers. They need a good playmaker at the back. And in general, I have to say, maybe you can help me with this. I am very confused about Olympiacos' identity and philosophy because, like it or not, Ernesto Valverde was the one that built Olympiacos' European identity with a little formation called 4-2-3-1.
Yes.
And he did it but with the use of a really good playmaker or attacking midfielder, however you want to call him. He started it out with Fernando Bellucci in 2008, 2009. Then it was David Fuster. And then they kept on going with that. His successors kept on going with that. We saw Tsori Dominguez under Mitchell. And then we saw a little guy called Kostas Fortounis, who understandably is injured and won't be back until next month. And we don't know how he will be when he comes back next month. 3-4-3, it is a very sophisticated system. It needs a lot of power. It needs a lot of pace. It needs really, really, really good fullbacks. That's what Antonio Conte taught us at Chelsea. And that's why Chelsea still keep going with it and still try to play that system. And they're slowly turning into 4-1-4-1 formation like they did tonight against Tottenham. And they barely won, in my opinion. If that Harry Kane goal did count, it would be a completely different story. I'm very confused about Olympiacos' identity because Martins also liked to use a 4-3-3 that used to lead to success. I'm not too sure what the identity is right now. And I don't know if I said this at the show, but PAOK missed a golden opportunity this season to actually at least compete with Olympiacos, at least take Olympiacos to the bone. If only Razvan Lucescu didn't insist so much at the same players who won him that historic double and thought to himself, we do need to turn a page here. But there is a new a new football director at PAOK right now who could help them, make that change with Razvan Lucescu or without Razvan Lucescu at the helm. They really missed a chance this season. They could have really competed with Olympiacos, and maybe that could have worked better for Olympiacos. But I don't know if Pedro Martins is staying. Personally, I don't think he is. I think he is going to move on for something better. In my opinion, I'd be very surprised if we don't hear Pedro Martins as one of the candidates for the Everton job, because he was number 4 for the Newcastle job, behind Unai Emery, Paulo Fonseca, and the person who is at the helm right now, Eddie Howe. So regardless of whether Pedro Martins is at the helm or not, next season is going to be very crucial, in my opinion. Next season can go either way unless there's some radical changes, at least in the squad.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you there. And as far as the identity goes, I wish I could say that this was the first time I felt like there was a disconnect between at the very least, the philosophy that we expect, the philosophy that we know Olympiacos has versus what is practiced. And the reason I say that is because last year when we interviewed Nico Polidi told us that in the academies they practice, and as we develop the kids, they're developing them in a 4-3-3 system. So at that point in time, Martins was flipping last year between the 4-3-3, a 4-4-2, and then of course at the end of last season, the 3-4-3, which started against Arsenal and then on from there. So when I heard that, I said, well, wait a minute. If we are developing everybody in a 4-3-3, what is going on? What is going on here? Why are we developing our kids in a 4-3-3 when our most successful time under Pedro Martins, and it's not like he was only here for a year or two, he's been here for 4 seasons. Why aren't we trying to push a 4-2-3-1 or whatever it is he's doing? So that was the first moment I felt there was something a little bit disjointed. But then now here we're pushing a system, a 3-4-3 system that you already said is very complicated. It's very complicated, and it requires top fullbacks that we no longer have at this club. And all that does is, and I've said this in the past, and I'm going to say it again, all it does is it kind of tells me, at the very least, what Martins doesn't see in this team. And what he doesn't see in this team is that he doesn't see that we have a creative midfielder or a creative attacking midfielder outside of Aguibou Camara. Now, he did say that Matthew Valbuena was the most talented player he's ever coached, but he also said he can't last more than 45 minutes because he's 37 years old. So that tells me everything right there. He doesn't believe there are any other players currently available to him that have the capacity to have the offense flow through him in a 4-2-3-1. The 4-4-2 didn't work. We've moved on from that. We've tried 4-3-3. I don't know why we keep trying it. When he does, it also doesn't work. So at this point, he is doubling down now on a much more defensive approach, relying primarily on our defensive players and eking out results. This is this is just how he sees it, and it speaks to me of what he does and does not see in the team. But bringing it back to this game, what at least was slightly encouraging to me was in the lack of an attacking midfielder, right? What he did today was employ much more, I'll say, or less discreetly, it was much more overt, was the employment of El Arabi as a false 9. El Arabi was much more on the ball, distributing and creating opportunities for everyone to get forward. And of course, Yorgos Masouras was doing everything to get into those open spaces. Wonderful job by him today. So much energy, making runs, presenting himself as an opportunity. Had a couple of, besides the goal that he had today, he could have had probably 1 or 2 more after that. But El Arabi, when he is in form and his hold-up play is there, what it's used to be, and what we're used to seeing him do, distributing the ball all over the place, this can make up for that lack of a 10 that we have, or at the very least until Aguibou comes back. And that's kind of what I saw today. Again, we already brought up that this game was, Giannina was missing some players from COVID. We know they were missing their star striker, Perea, which is probably why they didn't challenge us on target at all or have any threatening chances inside the penalty area. But the silver lining here was we have played worse against worse, if I'm being honest with you. So the fact to me that we were able to at least create a multitude of opportunities here shows me something. And it doesn't give me hope that we're just going to turn a corner and start playing beautiful football, but at least I see something here that I believe we can build on. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that at the very least.
Well, when it comes to Mathieu Valbuena, we just said it. I mean, in my opinion, he would have been in much, much higher regard if the Karim Benzema scandal didn't happen. a fantastic player, and I gotta say, I have had I'm still having the honor actually of working with some of the best sports journalists in the UK and the world. I'm gonna say, and one thing I've learned about the UK is that British people, they do not do any favors to any player. You gotta show your skills on that pitch if you want their recognition. And I've heard the best from my colleagues in Britain regarding Mathieu Valbuena, especially for his stint at Marseille. Pedro Martins, when he said that Mathieu Valbuena is the most technically gifted player he ever coached, well, I believe it, and I think a part of it
Yeah.
was taken out of context a little. I mean, here's a manager who, before Olympiacos, managed Marítimo, Rio Ave, and Vitoria Guimaraes. I mean, how much quality could he have had in his short career so far? If he goes at Everton, then let me tell you who the most technically gifted player is that he ever coached, and his name is Richarlison. That's what it's going to be like. So it doesn't make. I'm not surprised by that. But then again, that doesn't mean that he doesn't rate Fortounis or Pape Cisse or Agibu Kamara or Madi Kamara or Yorgos Masouras or Kostas Manolas that he has right now, or even Jose Sa, Daniel Podense, Kostas Tsimikas before them. That doesn't mean anything for them. In my opinion, Mathieu Valbuena is on another league. And like I said, he would have been doing much better if it wasn't for the Karim Benzema scandal. Now, when it comes to today's game, I think one of the reasons why I love Gate 7 International is that it's a podcast that is not afraid to criticize Olympiacos and keep them into account, which is the most important thing, I believe, in a football team. Olympiacos are going to win the league this season. Probably they're going to win the double. You know, they might actually do it. I don't think they will, but, you know, I've been wrong many times beforehand. And when it comes to Giannina, I don't care how many they missed. I don't care how strong they were. I don't care how unlucky they were. It doesn't matter. You know, you're Olympiacos, you're going to beat Giannina. It's never an argument if a team like Giannina are not at full strength or they're not. Uh, Olympiacos should be targeting for much higher. They should be targeting for much better, especially after what they did in the 2019-2020 season, which they didn't build on because they lost their two top fullbacks. And since then, there hasn't been any work being done on replacing those fullbacks. I have been screaming about that at the blogs. I've been screaming about this at the show. Unless Olympiacos get two quality fullbacks, there's not going to be an extra step. Yorgos Mirtsos in Salonika used to say that it's who used to play for Olympiacos. He did spend a few years, and he was part of the team that completed the record campaign in the Europa League. Back then, was called the Cup Winners' Cup, I believe it was called.
Yes.
And they made it to the quarterfinals against Atletico Madrid after eliminating Monaco with that Yorgos Vaitsi's goal. And he said he couldn't believe that Olympiacos haven't at least replicated that record so far at the Europa League. They did it in 1999 in the Champions League, but they haven't done it ever since. They had that amazing opportunity in the 2011-2012 campaign when they got eliminated from Metalist. That's what Olympiacos should be gunning for. I mean, forget about the Greek League. Forget about the double. Who cares if you don't win the double? Yeah, you're going to win the Greek League, and you are going to win it because the bar is so low right now. Even your biggest opponent right now, your most competitive opponent, not your biggest one, though your biggest one is Panathinaikos and will always be, but your most competitive opponent, PAOK, they're not making that extra little step in the Greek League. So you are going to win the Greek League as long as you're pushing yourself for that big step in Europe. And right now we cannot see it. The game is so predictable. They're playing like a Greek team with crosses from the wings, hoping that Elarabi, Tikini, or whoever's on the box is going to get a header and score somehow. The passing is so poor. I can barely see Olympiacos completing 3 passes in midfield at Georgios Karaiskakis. Forget about going abroad. There's a lot of work to be done. And in my opinion, Pedro Martins or no, unless there's radical change during the summer transfer window, there could be troubles in the Greek League next season. And I don't know how they're going to make the radical changes because Olympiacos, again, are going to have to play qualifiers for the Champions League in July, the end of July. Am I right?
Yep.
Pretty much. So they're not going to have much of a preseason. So they need to start working right now. And does it mean that Francois Modeston needs to find some more hidden gems from Africa, so be it. We need to learn to be a little more patient as well. You mentioned the academy, and Labros, our good friend Labros, wrote an amazing article the other day about how little work and investment is being done in the academy, and how many quality players are just being forgotten in the shuffle because Olympiacos want the fans and the club prefer ready-made solutions. Fast food is how I call them, instead of putting the work into creating something. Olympiacos cannot wait for a coach like Bento to come out, once every 20 years just to push Arezzo or an Andruzzo or a Manfatti out of nowhere. Some patience needs to exist. And I think a good idea would be if the club does decide to just do it, and up to a point, and I'll say this again, up to a point, disregard the usual fans moaning, because they are a very loud minority, those who moan about kids playing instead of quality players, when they say we should have had good players in there instead of that. I think that's a good idea. So the headline here is that unless Olympiacos make radical changes, next season could be quite an adventure.
It could be. Now, to your point about the academies and transfers and needing things, and right after this point, I do want to get into some of these comments as well, real quick. But I know a lot of people were not buying the Nikos Kotsis hype about Kitsos and about Giannitidis, who I believe he called the next Modric, or the Greek Modric. I may not buy into the hype about those players quite so much, even though those are young players that I do think at least deserve opportunities in the first team. I think that the nature of the environment we're in, we're not going to be making big signings. I know some people want, big signings in the winter so that we can compete. It's not happening. If you look at the payoff from us continuing in the Europa League, our probability of going past Atalanta as it is, we're not going to be spending big money. But the silver lining there is that we get to see some, Kitos might come up and play and relieve Oleg a little bit. We'll see. Hopefully we see Giannitidis come up. Maybe he does do something and offer us something in the midfield. That is a silver lining. Now, I do want to, there are some comments coming in, some pretty good ones. A quick question here from Agelos Kutz. I have a question for you guys. What will we do if Fortounis won't be able to perform? I mean, it's gonna even
same
when
ball. It's going to be the same thing. I mean,
it's going to be the same. And also, when he was healthy at the end of last season, he was our most expensive super sub. He was an almost €2 million super sub off the bench. Let's not forget that, guys.
But it worked. It worked.
But it did work. That's correct.
He was the guy that got Olympiacos through to the last 16 of the Europa League against Eindhoven.
Right. So I do expect that he'll come back, but even if he doesn't perform, it's going to be more of this. So you know what I mean? I'm not hanging my hat on whether or not he comes back and is a superstar. Let's be honest here. We also have a comment here from Lifer828. First time I've seen this guy in the comments. So welcome, my friend. Go back to the 4-2-3-1 and put in Rony Lopez behind El Arabi. Well, Lifer, that's a question. That's something that we have been wondering about, because supposedly Rony Lopez was brought in as a 10, and we've only seen him play on the wing. So if it hasn't been tried or done yet, I don't think we're going to see that. Although that is something that people have wondered. Rony Lopez came in. He was supposed to be a 10. He looked like he was starting to catch form. Now we're barely seeing him. God knows what's going on there.
I got a question for you about Rony Lopez. Doesn't it make more sense to just let him go back in the summer and use the money that you were going to pay for Rony Lopez and buy 2 really good fullbacks?
Right.
No. Surely you're not going to pay all that money for Lopez. Sure.
No, I'm not paying. No, what I'm thinking about is like if I would just let him go back like right now is like my thought process.
Not now. I mean, you need him right now because you don't have a lot of solutions. But the summer, you're not going to pay all that money to buy him, right?
I'm not. No, absolutely not. At this point, honestly, I don't even know if I'd pay 1 or 2 million for him, to be honest with you. Like I caught a little bit of flack at the end of last season when I said that Bruma, I wasn't going to pay what PSV wanted, but I said, you know what? If we can get that fee down to 1.5, 2, I would take Bruma because we
Yes.
did get material results from him. We got material end product, right? And people are like, oh, we don't want Bruma. He's garbage. We can find somebody else. You know what I mean? But I don't look what the production has been on the wing for us this year. We besides Masuras when he was in form, we haven't had a lot of great production. And I think Bruma could have been useful to us this year, but I digress. Um but listen, before we continue to go on any more of these tangents, it's about getting to that time of the podcast where we do our man of the match and our coach's grade. And I think we should quickly get that out of the way. Otherwise we could talk about some of these what if scenarios, it feels like, all day. You know what I mean? So for me, when it comes to man of the match and coach's grade, um, I'll go first. My man of the match today is going to be Yorgos Masuras. The energy level he got into great spaces, made himself available for El Arabi constantly when El Arabi was holding up the ball. Masuras was making great runs. He had a couple of great interceptions today, and it was his follow through on the first goal where El Arabi, the ball was played into El Arabi. Of course, he gets a touch on it, but it flicks over him. And Masuras follows through after Salyakas has an awful little header back to the keeper, kind of scoops it and gets the goal in. I thought that was wonderful. His energy was great. I'm going to give him my man of the match with, of course, a shout to Youssef El Arabi for having very solid hold up play. I have been very critical about the regression in his hold up play this season, and today it was another performance that reminded me about the hold up play we've seen from him in the last 2 years. And this is the consistent hold up play we need to see from him so that we can get not only more out of him, but then so he can get that 2 million. If he wants that 2 million euro contract again for next season, it's not enough for him just to be scoring those 15, 20, whatever goals he gets this season. The hold up play comes with it. That's why he got that contract. So runner up El Arabi, but my man of the match goes to Yorgos Masuras. And as far as the coach's grade today, look, when your opponent doesn't get any shots on target and they can't get a shot beyond 25 meters or under 25 meters on the target, what can you complain about? There wasn't really anything threatening. We had plenty of opportunities. Okay, maybe the play could have been prettier, but with what we've seen and what we saw today, I was happy with the performance. I might have a couple grievances here with the substitutions, but in the end, we got the result. And based on what we saw in the last 3 games, I'm not going to complain and nitpick too much. So I will give an A- to
Yeah.
Coach Pedro Martins, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, you hit the nail right in the head with Masuras. I agree with everything you said, and I'm also going to add that it was his goal at on the 4th minute, so early into the match, that really set the pace in the game. Got Olympiacos to play in a more confident kind of manner because they knew they were already holding the lead. So worst case scenario, they equalize. They're not going to find themselves behind. He set the pace, and that's the kind of player Yorgos Masuras is. He's not the most quality player Olympiacos have or any team could have, but he brings results. He's substantial, is what he is. His substance. He won't get the ball. He won't pick up the ball and do all those crazy dribblings. He's not going to shoot. He's going to put together all those amazing shots. He will bring substance into the game. When it comes to Pedro Martins, A-, a lot of crucial absences within his squad. Still got what he needed from a team like Giannina, but much harder challenges ahead. PAOK on Sunday at Tuba, which is going to be difficult. There's the rematch with Panetolikos, which could go either way, really, considering their recent form, and Atalanta, which, if I can be honest with you, I'm just going to say this here. We're going to have a much deeper dive on Atalanta at a later stage, but I am going to give a little teaser here. In my opinion, this is either going to be a very, very easy qualification for Atalanta, or it's going to be a really, really big nail biter. My opinion. I said it.
Well, what at this point, I don't know if it's just going to be another stressful experience. We do have a quick comment from our buddy Costa. Kalispera Mages. To be frank, Kotsis didn't call Giannidis the next Modric. She just said Giannidis idolized him. Still, Giannidis and Modric in the same sentence. Ridiculous. Thank you for checking me on that, Costa. You are right. I saw Giannidis and Modric in the same sentence, and I lost my mind when I read that. Good calling me on that. Thank you. And real
Well,
quick,
if I could add on this, I haven't read Nikos Kotsis' article, if I'm being honest, but I do think Nikos Kotsis is a very, in my opinion, he is a talented journalist. I have been following his work, and to be honest with you, I am going to be very interested to see what Kitsos, Xenitidis, and any kind of kid from Olympiacos B can bring to the first team. I'm very glad with the initiative of Olympiacos B. I feel like there's a lot of people within the team that care about the team, and it could help them improve and develop into the kind of players Olympiacos need. There's Ariel Bagas and Yorgos Anatolakis who love the club and know what it means to play for a team like Olympiacos, which is especially hard to explain to foreign players. So I'm going to be very interested to see what they can bring to the first team.
all right, I definitely agree with you there. And before we go into our scheduled ad read, there is one other question before we go into that from Christina Economidou. Maybe sell Onyekuru and promote Lovera to the starting 11. I would be fine with that, to be perfectly honest with you. But I think the fact that Lovera wasn't a part of the team today, if he wasn't in the squad today, again, assuming I didn't see anything about injury or sickness, but if he wasn't a part of the team today, part of me wonders if Lovera will be a part of the team at all. But that's just me postulating on that. Anyway, guys, listen.
Or maybe sell on Onyekuru, period.
Listen, I am not going to disagree with you there. I am not going to say no to that either. Anyway, guys, I have a little bit of a rhyme for you today. Roses are red, violets are blue. Don't let a wild pube wreck you. Valentine's Day, guys, is just around the corner, and our sponsors at Manscaped are here for you with the best tools to get your balls ready for the special occasion. This Valentine's Day, it's time to join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-belt waist grooming. With our exclusive offer that you can see here below, enter G7INTL for 20% off any orders you make, plus free shipping. Look, guys, I know the holidays, they went by so quickly, but listen, remember to take care of yourself and get the right tools for the job. Peter talked about it in the past. The Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is just the thing every guy needs in their life to make each and every day just a little bit more special. The Lawnmower 4.0, you guys have seen the video. I shaved my buddy's head with it. Before I did anything else, of course, that would just be disrespectful. Come on now. I had people send me DMs about that, getting upset with me. That thing is wonderful. We've also had some of our followers, or at least I've had some people DM me telling me how awesome the shampoo and the body wash is. So I haven't tried them personally myself, but we've gotten some great feedback about that. Check it out. Good enough to where my own brother is currently subscribed to Manscaped getting the body wash. He loves that stuff. For me, it's the boxers. Costa has mentioned them. Other Costa, sorry, Costa K. the boxer briefs, anti-chafing, my friend. They are fantastic. They keep you warm as well. Good stuff. Great product here from Manscaped. Don't forget, everyone, get 20% off using our code G7INTL at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use G7INTL. Join Cupid and shoot your arrow with Manscaped this Valentine's Day. Love it. Love these ad reads, Costa. They're so much fun, my friend. But, as we digress from the post-match. Chris Wheatley checking in just in time for Manscaped. Chris, you've got great timing, my friend. Great timing.
I think we should make a little compo one day. Maybe a nice compilation, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Oh, we got a rhyme here from Aguilo. Roses are red and red is a cherry. Don't let your balls be so hairy. Aguilo, that's good. I might quote you on that on the next ad read, my friend. Anyway, guys, we promised you after the post match, we had a bit of an exclusive here with Costa. Costa wrote an article about the rumors about Pape Cisse going to the Premier League. So, Costa, what have you got for us, my friend? What is the latest being said about a possible Cisse transfer to the Premier League?
So the information I have, and I wrote an article about it on The Sun, is that Newcastle are interested in signing Pape Cisse from Olympiacos during the January transfer window. They are willing to pay a fee in the region of 12 million pounds, which is almost 15 million euros. There's been a meeting with Cisse's representatives. It went well. I don't have any info about a meeting with Olympiacos yet, but my sources do tell me that Olympiacos would be interested to talk about that fee, to seriously consider that fee and consider a deal with Newcastle this month. There's a very good chance, though, that Newcastle are not going to be on their own in their bid to sign Cissé, because I've known since October that more Premier League teams are interested in Cissé. Those are Arsenal, Everton, Leicester, and Liverpool, who have been following his development for quite a few years in the Champions League and the Europa League. They saw him against Arsenal, obviously, Wolves, Man City, Marseille, AC Milan, that far behind, that far back. Uh, and they also saw him against Porto as well. Why are Newcastle interested in Cissé? Well, they've been keeping tabs on him during Copa Africa, the African Cup of Nations, which, as you know, my dear friend Ari, Cissé has been replacing Senegal captain and Napoli superstar Kalidou Koulibaly, who tested positive for coronavirus and missed the first two games against Zimbabwe and Guinea. So he started and he helped them get a clean sheet and a victory. So it was a 1-0 victory over Zimbabwe and a goalless draw with Guinea. He didn't start against Malawi because Koulibaly returned. But he did play a big part in helping Senegal top Group B and make it to the last 16, where they're going to face Cape Verde, which, someone we know plays there, called Gary Rodriguez, who also scored a wonder goal against Cameroon. And I had the honor of calling that for the Sun. Cissé also made it to the best lineup of game week 1 from SofaScore, which is a stats website kind of like Opta. The only representative of Senegal. He was joined by Riyad Mahrez of Algeria and Manchester City. Just a few things, though, about what Newcastle really want. What Newcastle want is a center back, and they're desperate for one because they've conceded the second highest amount of goals in the Premier League this season behind Norwich. They started with Sven Botman from Lille, didn't work out. Then they tried out with Benoit Badiashile, but there are some issues about his muscle injury. Benoit Badiashile plays for Monaco, very impressive player, but he has picked up a muscle injury. The priority right now is Diego Carlos from Sevilla, and there's been an agreement between the club and the player, but that is Newcastle and Carlos. But Sevilla turned down their £25 million offer, their most recent one. So in my opinion, Cissé is not like, the way I understand it, Cissé is probably not a priority for the center back position, but definitely someone to have in the team. Definitely someone maybe to work with Diego Carlos, because they've been following his. So many Premier League teams have been following his career for quite a few years. A very talented player at Olympiacos, a luxury for the Greek league, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot more updates real soon.
Well, let me ask you something, Costa, because you had also reported earlier this year that Newcastle were also interested alongside Liverpool and even Arsenal, if I remember correctly, for Agibu Kamara. So, is there a possibility that they would try to do some type of combo deal, maybe a double move for the two together, or that there would be interest, or would it be treated separately?
Well, I mean, when it comes to Newcastle, I was having a discussion with a colleague of mine in England who also happens to be a Newcastle fan, and expressed a fear he has about his team. He said that everyone knows that Newcastle are the richest club in the world, and everybody knows that Newcastle are desperate not to be relegated. That's never happened before. The richest club in the world getting relegated. That's never happened before, and it's never going to happen again. Probably never going to happen again. So they understand that. So a lot of clubs will think that, hey, I got this really good player here who costs 10 million pounds. But here comes the richest club in the world who also happens to be desperate not to be relegated. So it's not 10 million pounds for them, it's 20 million pounds for them. So I'm not too sure how Olympiacos or any kind of team would approach any interest from Newcastle, especially mid-season. Mid-season, that the January transfer window is the worst transfer window out of the two we have. I was talking to Nikos Dabizas, and he told me that the only thing you can do in the January transfer window is tweaks. That's all. You can't build a team. You can't bring a player that's going to save you from relegation or win you a title. You can just do tweaks. Realistically, it's happened. It's happened with players coming in and saving teams from relegation, but realistically, it's not going to happen. So Olympiacos still need Cissé because they want to win a double. They still need Cissé because they're hoping that they're going to eliminate Atalanta. We keep on dreaming is the slogan, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not too sure about Olympiacos' strategy, but in my opinion, if they're smart, they are going to push the envelope a little bit, at least in January. Summer, completely different story. And Olympiacos are pretty full in the center-back department. Agibu, my sources tell me that people around him are convinced he's going to be in the Premier League next season. So it's a completely different story there compared to Cissé. I don't think Agibu is going to stay at Olympiacos. I'm going to be very, very surprised if he stays, especially if he keeps on performing at the AFCON and his injury is not too bad. So it's a completely different story there. They do see him like kind of a boy wonder kind of thing. There is a bit of a managerial influence as well in that. Only thing he has in common with Yaya Touré from his time at Olympiacos, the first stint, is that, the whole thing that there's this sense he's not staying.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And thank you, Costa, for that great, great information and the great update about Cissé. Look, the one thing is we can at least say that this club, especially in the last few years, every season there is a big ticket signing, or I should say a pretty big sell that occurs at least once a season. That's a nice thing to get in the habit of, especially with so many players going into the Premier League. Our exposure to the Premier League, the better it gets, the more larger fees, I should say, we can command. So it is good. However, on the flip side, if you lose Cissé, you have to find a way to replace him, right? If you have to worry about the hole that's being filled. I think if we get a nice fee, I think if that 15 million comes, I don't think we can say no, given what's happened to us in the past with players we've held for too long. I think you have to take the money while the money's good, personally. And we also have to make sure that we properly re-bolster the squad, or I should say rebuild the squad to maybe not necessarily to replace exactly what's left, or to just to make sure that a hole isn't left once Cissé leaves. Now there's a couple more questions here, or comments at least, Costa, that I think we should comment on. Maritsolakis, we sell expensive and we get cheap players. Look, my friend, this is the model that a lot of Portuguese clubs have, and it works for them. It's not about how cheap the player is. It's about whether or not that player has talent and it has something that you can build off of. Look at Mari, look at Agibu Camara, look at now Fadiga. These are players that we're getting for nothing. Some of them are projects and it's going to take time, yes, but this is the only way that we can ever hope to compete and get more money for coffers to build a better team. The money's not going to come from Greece. And unless we're always in Champions League, that money's not sustainable either. We have to have another revenue stream so that we can continue to build the team and slowly but surely build it for the future. So unfortunately, that's how it is.
And Olympiacos cannot buy top shelf players. It just doesn't. Modern football doesn't work this way. They also need to want to come to Olympiacos. That's also another little problem that exists in football. You got an amazing player who plays in England, Spain, Germany, France. Who am I missing? I'm missing someone. They need to want to come to Olympiacos, and the Greek league doesn't offer competition, doesn't offer enough money. Yes, there's the Champions League and the Europa League, but compared to what they can get in Spain, England, Germany, France,
Right.
Italy. That's what was missing. They need to want to come. So Olympiacos can only hope to sell expensive and buy cheap and create something. Keep selling expensive.
Exactly. We guys, we have to be realistic here. And the niche that Olympiacos has found itself in, especially in the last, I'd say 10 years, is we are one of two things. We are a stepping stone for some of these developing players to get exposure and to get first team football, especially in Champions League, whether it's like Podense or Amadi and Agibu Kamara, or we're a second chance saloon. We're players that maybe have that talent or something happened in their club. Like think of Joel Campbell, guys. Came in and his career was re-sparked, right? It was reinvigorated when he was just on the bench doing nothing at Arsenal. He came in, had a lovely season, then Wenger wanted him back, everybody wanted him back. Think things like that. So this is what we have to capitalize on. This is where our money's going to be coming from. Another comment here from Cristina Economidou. This is in reference to Cissé departure and the replacement. Very simple. Avram, just kidding. Markovic will have to grab that chance from the horns if he wants to play in the squad. We hope, but it doesn't seem like Pedro Martins has him in his plans at all.
Or
Here you
Pedro
go.
Martins might not be at Olympiacos.
Well,
I don't think he will. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to stay.
Listen, I have already accepted the fact that he probably won't be here. Look,
Yeah,
that's just how I've looked at it.
Yeah.
Comment here from George Kefalas. One piece of good news is that Nigeria were eliminated, and we will not be deprived of the services of superstar Henry anymore. I've seen a couple of these now in the comments. People are taking some jabs here at Onyekuru. Viper 3 here, Costa, in agreement with you. Martins is leaving this summer. The club decided to leak through Nico Kotsis that Martins is close to agreeing a new contract deal in order to preserve a healthy dressing room during his last months. Well, that's an interesting strategy, to say the least. And look, it's the whole situation. And we have some stuff in this video short that I told you guys in the beginning of the season. Look, it's okay. Look, we can say that the product hasn't been good enough, right? For Olympiacos, it's not what we expect. There have been problems, right? COVID. There's a lot of things that have affected this team. Injuries, COVID, but other teams have had to deal with these things too. AFCON, right? We just haven't managed it. Now we're in first place and we still have a 9-point lead in first place, right? So we have managed by the skin of our teeth to keep things that way, whether it's by our own volition or because the other teams in the league are just that much more shitty than we are. That's just how it is. But we also need to recognize what Martins has done for this team, the stability that he brought to this team. Yeah, you know what? Maybe Lambro's right. Maybe we're kind of back to where we were when he first came in. But this team was a freaking disaster. Disaster 4 years ago, guys. This was when Hazi came and blew the biggest transfer budget Marinakis has given any one coach in the summer. 44 players, a little teaser, 44 players left the club in one summer after that Hazi season, or 3 months of Hazi and then the roulette that happened, the coaching roulette. So we do need to recognize, like, Martins may have, I don't want to say overstayed his welcome, but things have gotten away from him here. But it doesn't take away from the good stuff that he's done for us. It doesn't take away from the fact that he is a great coach. Okay? He is a great coach.
He's an amazing coach. And like I said, do not be surprised if we hear his name for the Everton job. Do not be surprised. Right. Watford will be looking for a new manager soon as well. I can tell you that. They are going to be looking for a new manager soon.
Exactly. I think there was a journalist for Watford, I believe, Sam Street, that mentioned something like that as well, I believe, on social media. So I mean, I just want to temper, because, like, you know, we do when fans talk about football, right? And we start talking in our echo chambers here, it has the propensity to get very negative, right? And we can be sometimes needlessly critical, or there's being critical, right? And you're critiquing and things about the club, but then there's also like unnecessarily toxic in a respect. And so I think sometimes it's good for us to take a step back and recognize where we've been. And that doesn't take away from the poor performances and the poor things that we've seen this season. But we do have to take certain things into respect, right? And what he's done at this club, yeah, maybe it fell apart this season, sure. But we're all going to remember the great moments that we had here, the stability that we had here that no other team in Greece has had.
The only thing I would like to add is that the Besnik Hasi squad that finished third in the Greek league, and they were lucky not to have playoffs, would have been destroyed by the Olympiacos team that finished fifth in the 2009-2010 season. They would have been annihilated by that team. Absolutely pummeled. Let's put that into account.
Exactly. So that being said, we're coming up on an hour here, Costa.
Yeah. Indeed.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we begin to close up here?
I think it's that point of the season where you just look at short-term targets for now until you get to the summer and you can actually rebuild, sell, whatever the hell it is, see what the hell happens. Yeah, I mean, I'd be very surprised if Olympiacos lose the league. I can tell you that the feeling in Greece is that Olympiacos are already the champions, so that's not even really a conversation. Push yourself for something big at Atalanta. Like I said, either Atalanta are going to make it through really easily or it's going to be really dramatic. Like something amazing could happen at Bergamo. I am not completely counting that out. Something crazy happening at Bergamo. And at least win the double. If you don't push yourself in Europe, then do it in the Greek Cup. Difficult opponent, the Panetolikos. Maybe not difficult, but, a surprising opponent maybe.
Right. Or at least one maybe we underestimated, right? Not just as a team, but as a league. I mean, first AEK, then us, and then they destroyed Offi, right? There's maybe a little bit more to them than I think we all gave them the credit for, at the very least. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then one other thought, actually, if what Viper said is true, I haven't heard that Nikos Kotsis piece yet, or read it, I should say. But if that's true, then I hope that maybe Pedro Martin's blood's more the young guys if he's going to be out the door anyway. I would like to see maybe some more of the academy guys, Sorlis, Kitsos, guys see the field more with the first team. That would be my ask. So guys, if you haven't done so already, please hit that button on the bottom. Like, subscribe. Don't forget to follow also if you don't do so on other platforms on social media. Help us continue to grow this community. Help us create a large community for the club that we love, the club we believe is the biggest club, the best club in the world. Help us continue to do so and hit that like and subscribe button. And lastly, thank you guys for listening, especially all of you that made it this far. We really appreciate all of you. It's so wonderful seeing all of you guys in the chat every week, the conversations we have, even those of you that may disagree with what we have to say. This channel, this space isn't just our voice. It's not me. It's not Costa. It's not other Costa. It's not Lambro. It's Peter. This is the fans' voice, right? This is by the fans for the fans. Your voice counts as much as ours do. We love to talk to you. We love to hear from you. Please keep it up, everyone. And until next time, this is Gate 7 International.
You just listened to an episode of the Gate 7 International podcast, a podcast connecting Olympiacos fans from Brussels to Tokyo, from Toronto to Geneva. We are 4 Olympiacos fans from every corner of the world, bringing you news and interviews of the team you love in English. With new episodes twice a week, you will never miss out on the latest updates and stories of the team you love. If you liked what you heard, make sure to follow us on social media at Gate7INTL, give us a subscribe on YouTube, or even leave a review on all our podcast channels. Until next time, this is our team, our city, and our story. Θρύλος είσαι. στο μυαλό κάτι